and then I'm going to stick around and mingle around and answer some of your questions one-on-one. And so if anybody needs to step out a little bit before 8 because you want to see this library, it's just a beautiful facility. This one in Stonecrest, and there's one other at Salem, Panola, is that right? Are those the three that were designed by this architect? Ted, do you know? Stone, it's just this one in Stonecrest. Not. Stonecrest and Tucker. Okay, Stonecrest and Tucker. Leo Daly. Okay, Leo Daly is the architect, and these are really beautiful facilities. You can see the stone accents on the back of the wall. So these are some of the things that I want to talk to you tonight about. But this is really fantastic. So I hope you all get a chance to go move around and see the place. We, first of all, let me say welcome. And let me thank everyone for being here tonight. And we've got a good turnout, and so that's good. We have been talking for some time about the concept of creating ONE DeKalb. And ONE DeKalb started out by being our Office of Neighborhood Empowerment, but it's expanded to mean so much more than that. It really embraces the spirit that unites us as a community, as a county. When I became CEO, one of the things I most heard from the citizens around this county is that there was a feeling of separation and divisiveness. And so we've created this concept of ONE DeKalb, and that's really why we're here tonight, to talk about how we're moving this county forward, even in the midst of what's been some very difficult times, some of the most difficult times that many of us have ever lived through economically. But we built new facilities because of bond referendums that were passed by our citizens in 2001 and 2006. All told, 8 new libraries, one of which you're sitting in today, or improved libraries. We are improving our streetscapes along some of our major corridors like Candle Road, Memorial Drive, and Buford Highway. We've opened 2 new rec centers, and we've got, because of a public-private partnership, a new YMCA that we're doing the construction on, and then the YMCA will operate in Stone Mountain. So again, that's a very special facility, the first of its type. We will be launching 2 new senior centers next year in 2012. Very special. Last week we did the groundbreaking for a facility where we're going at one of our landfills, and we're going to be converting landfill methane gas into convertible CNG gas. What is that now? Compressed natural gas. Compressed natural gas. And we'll be using that to fuel automobiles. We're already using the energy from one of our landfills and selling it to Georgia Power, bringing revenue into the county, and using that to create one energy source. Now we'll be using it to fuel our sanitation vehicles and selling it to those automobiles that can use compressed natural gas. And so that's good news, and we're using some federal stimulus money in order to do that, working with a private sector partner. So in many ways, what we're doing is we're working in partnership to really add value to DeKalb County as a community. And I wanted to start out tonight by telling you about some upcoming events, things that are going on. I also forgot to mention, by the way, the water and sewer upgrades we're going to be doing. A lot of us don't see or think about water and sewer pipes and facilities, but they get old. And many of our pipes, most are older than 25 years, and many are older than 50 years. And there are a few of you all like me who are older than 50 years in here. When things are older than 50 years, they start to break down a little bit, okay? But we're going in, and we're repairing and maintaining those facilities and those pipes to ensure our citizens that over the next 25, 30 years, that you can count on DeKalb County as a place where you're going to have safe, drinkable water, flushable toilets, basic human necessities. And so that's more good news of what we're doing, advancing the county, rebuilding our infrastructure. So I wanted to start out tonight by sharing with you some good news about some upcoming events. And I also want to make sure that everybody knows about some upcoming elections and opportunities. and then we're going to do some Q&A. Okay? First of all, tomorrow we have a major housing announcement at 10 a.m. in the morning. Where's my communication? 10:30 in the morning. We are going to be announcing what we call our ONE DeKalb Lives initiative. ONE DeKalb Lives is an umbrella for a number of housing initiatives that we have going on in DeKalb County to provide down payment assistance to first-time owners of homes, to provide homes for veterans and other citizens who might not, because of problems they may have had in their past with their credit scores, otherwise qualify for homes, through our neighborhood stabilization grants, federal stimulus money that we received more than any other community in the Atlanta metro area to stabilize neighborhoods and to buy up foreclosed property and repair it and put it back on the market. Now, what makes tomorrow's announcement so special, to add on to those initiatives that we've already launched, we will be taking advantage of a new HUD program with a private sector partner, a lender, a name that is very familiar to the metro Atlanta community, a name we all know and trust. I got to build up the suspense. I can't tell you yet who it is, but you'll know tomorrow. And that lender will be partnering with us to provide foreclosed homes, to put them back on the market for a target audience. And that target audience will be eligible to get a 50% discount. Now, these are attractive homes. These are not rundown slum properties. These are attractive homes, middle-class homes in middle-class communities that have been left vacant as a result of the foreclosure crisis that we've been living through. And what makes this so special and so exciting is that the target audience is teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other first responders. Am I leaving anybody out? Emergency medical technicians. So our first responders and our teachers will be the target audience to move them back in their homes within communities, many communities where you and I live. I know my community is included in one of those. So these are nice homes. So we'll be at one of those homes tomorrow morning, home that has been closed under the program. It is owned by the DeKalb County police officer. And we will be making the announcement about that program. That is under our ONE DeKalb Lives initiative, and it's called our Good Neighbor Next Door program. Next week, we will be announcing a major jobs initiative. We know that many of our citizens have been devastated by job loss. And I mentioned that we're going to be repairing our water and sewer system. All told, about $1.4 billion of water and sewer upgrades over the next 8 years. Those jobs will be, those projects, 83 in all, will be launched, will all begin over the next 5 years. And we're going to train DeKalb County citizens, and then we're going to make sure that DeKalb County businesses are first in line to get those jobs. Now, DeKalb County won't be doing all the work. We'll be hiring third-party vendors. And we have what we call a local small business enterprise program. And we're going to use that program to make sure that we go after DeKalb County vendors, first and foremost. And then we're going to bring in a third-party, private sector partners who will come in and do the training of DeKalb County citizens, so that when we tell those vendors, go out and hire DeKalb County citizens first, they can't say, well, we tried, but we just don't have a good pool of applicants. We're going to make sure that those people are available and that they're trained. We're going to be working with one of our technical colleges. We're going to be working with the labor unions, and we're going to be working with a national partner who's going to be doing the monitoring. One of the biggest complaints I heard from our local small business enterprise partners when I became CEO is that you got this great program. I'm proud to have authored the program when I was a county commissioner. But what you don't have is good, strong monitoring of the program. And so we're going to bring in a third-party set of eyes who will come in and do that monitoring. We'll make that announcement next week. So we've got our landfill last week, our housing initiative this week, tomorrow, our jobs initiative next week. Big programs. Code compliance. In the month of December, at the beginning of the month, we'll be unveiling our latest proposals in code compliance. We know that our citizens want to live in clean as well as safe neighborhoods. And so we've gone in and worked with the Board of Commissioners and revamped our codes so that we can have a streamlined process when there's a code violation. But no matter how streamlined the process is, you still need to have your code compliance. We used to call it code enforcement. We now call it code compliance. You still need to have your code compliance officers. And one of the things I've learned from being in county government now for over 10 years is that in good times or bad, it's difficult to get as many code compliance officers as you need. And so we've decided to create a volunteer corps of citizens who we will train, and then we will give you the charge to go forth and multiply. And to cite those people who are violating the code, and you'll be able to go out in your neighborhood. Why? Because that's what you care most about, your neighborhood. And then you'll be able to report those back to our offices internal, and then because we have the streamlined procedures, we'll be able to get them through the system faster. So that will kick off. We'll make the announcement about that the first week of December, and then that program will kick off before the end of the year. Those are some of the good things that we have going on in DeKalb County, along with the rebuilding of the infrastructure and libraries and rec centers and streetscape improvements. We're doing our best to make responsible use of the resources that you've given us. Some people have asked, somebody asked me yesterday, well, if we're in a recession, why are we spending money? Well, two reasons. Number one, because the money we're spending is money that's either come to us through federal stimulus money, targeted for a specific purpose, or it's money that was passed by a bond referendum that you voted for, targeted for a special purpose. And again, when I became CEO, a lot of that money was just sitting in a pot because it can't be spent for anything else. And costs continue to rise over time. So we're spending the money now, doing our best to keep people working, to make sure the facilities that are being built is inexpensively, I don't want to say cheaply, because these are nice facilities, but as inexpensively as they can, so that we're well poised for a quicker recovery than we would otherwise experience. Two big dates in elections I want to tell you about. First and foremost, next Tuesday, November the 8th, is Election Day. And for those who live in municipalities and cities within DeKalb County, you're probably aware of that because you have mayors and city council members and people like that running for office, and yard signs are popping up. So those are important elections. But there are some referendums. And within those cities, by the way, there will be a referendum for Sunday alcohol sales. Let me add that also. And I want to make sure you're aware of that. We'll put that on the rest of the county's ballots during the presidential primary, which I believe is in March of 2012. But the other thing for the entire county is there's an education SPLOST, the extension of the education SPLOST, which is being used for a number of capital improvements. I think most people are aware we have a new school superintendent, Dr. Cheryl Atkinson. I've met with her. She's been to my office. I have a quarterly roundtable meeting with university presidents and college presidents in DeKalb County and one even beyond DeKalb County's borders who comes in and sits with us from Morehouse College. And the major university presidents and I sit around, and we've been talking for some time about how we can use what has been an underutilized and untapped resource, our faculty members from those universities and our student bodies, and add value to what they're doing on their campuses and give them the real-world laboratory within DeKalb County and bring value to our citizens here at home. And we talked about some of the big problems that we might be able to tackle. We narrowed it down to two. One, how can we make government be innovative? And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And secondly, what we can do to help improve the public school system, the public education system. And so we wanted to bring in our new superintendent, Jim Wagner, who is the president of Emory University, hosted our last gathering, which was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. And we came in, and the superintendent, I think, had been on the job maybe about 2 weeks at that time. So she took it all in and gave us some good feedback. She has agreed to host a follow-up meeting, which we're going to have in about a week, 8 days from today, actually. And so I want you to know that we're working in partnership with our school system and in partnership with our universities and colleges here in DeKalb County of all sizes. And we're working to bring that kind of innovation and solutions to some big problems. But I do know she would want me to remind you about the E-SPLOST vote, which is part of the vote next week. So whether you live in a city in DeKalb County or you live outside of a city and you live in unincorporated DeKalb County, there's a reason to go to the polls on Tuesday and to early vote this week. Secondly, I mentioned a presidential primary, which I believe is in March of next year. It'll be on Super Tuesday. Does anybody know the exact date of that presidential primary?
March 6th.
March 6th, okay. I want that to be on everybody's radar screen. And then I want to talk about next summer in July. There will be a number of local elections. The CEO's race, I'll be running for CEO. There'll be county commissioners race. Half of the county commissioners will be running for office. But there will be a transportation T-SPLOST referendum. Transportation SPLOST referendum. And some of you, no doubt, have been reading about that in the Sunday paper and hearing about it on the news. I want to make sure that I bring that up and that everybody understands where we are. The real marketing for that hasn't begun, but it no doubt will. In fact, it will. I know that after the beginning of the new year, and I want everybody to know sort of where we are and what's at stake. We have a traffic congestion problem in Metro Atlanta. And if you've lived in here for any period of time, you know that. And the General Assembly passed legislation which divided the county the state into 12 different regions. And each one of those regions has a group of elected officials that were designated by the legislation who would come together and come up with a list of transportation projects to be voted on the voters within the region for a penny sales tax to be completed over a 10-year period. In Metro Atlanta region, rather, it was a 10-county regional committee or roundtable that was put together. 21 elected officials, 2 from each county, and then the mayor of Atlanta came up with a list of projects. And when we began that process, we had $23 billion worth of wants, with just over $6 billion to be generated from the penny, and some extra money to go to each of the local governments to do some roadway and transportation improvements within our own cities and counties. So $6 billion of revenue, $23 billion of need. And so our task was to prioritize, set criteria, and then to narrow that $23 billion down to $6 billion. And I think we did that and we came up with what is not necessarily a perfect list, but I think a good list that came as a result of collaboration and shared sacrifice and everybody willing to really roll up their sleeves and do some very difficult work. And at the end of the day, we got 21 elected officials from big counties and small counties, urban and suburban and rural counties and cities, all come together, and then it's in towns, because some of those cities were as big as the city of Atlanta and others were smaller cities, Kennesaw, Norcross, for example. And so we were able to come together and then come up with the project list. So that project list will go before all the citizens in the 10-county region including DeKalb, in July of next year. And then the majority of voters within that 10-county region will decide whether that project list is approved and a penny sales tax goes forward. In DeKalb County, the two representatives were myself and Mayor Bill Floyd from Decatur. We decided that there should be a priority based on transit. DeKalb County now gets about $1.3 billion of that $6 billion list, $6.1 billion, with about 1.3 coming to DeKalb County projects and almost $1 billion of that coming to transit. The largest transit project in the region in terms of money allocated would come to DeKalb County.